Welcome to Inside Edition True Crime. I'm Mara Montalbano. We begin with the story of the most terrifying serial killer you've never heard of.
Just when you think he thought of it all, something else comes out of his mouth.
The only person I ever shot was Bill Curry.
And you're like, holy.
Everybody else is striking.
This guy was so unprecedented in so many ways.
A man who lived two very different lives.
As he murdered victim after victim, we don't even know how many.
Killed all over the United States, so why was he being hidden from us?
A serial killer the FBI describes as addicted to murder.
The killings were completely random.
I knew that there would be even more mysteries to uncover.
Their bodies have never been found.
I could never have predicted what I encountered. I'm Maureen Callahan, author of American Predator, The Hunt for the Most Meticulous Serial Killer of the 21st Century. Samantha Koenig was an 18-year-old barista who was working February 1st, 2012. She was closing up, and the next morning, the barista who opened up discovered that all the cash in the register was missing, and Samantha was nowhere to be found. And so began a race against time investigation that would lead the FBI to the most unprecedented serial killer they had ever encountered. Israel Keyes was a middle-aged man based in Anchorage, Alaska. He's raised by survivalist parents who loathe the federal government. He underwent serious special forces training in the United States Army. He would travel frequently, and he would do so by buying a one-way plane ticket, flying into a major hub, renting a car, turning off his cell phone, ripping the battery out, only using cash, going dark as he called it, driving hundreds or thousands of miles to retrieve a kill kit. He would then hunt around looking for victims. He had no preference, so he would go after young, old, women, men, white, black, alone, in pairs, did not matter. He could abduct them within seconds. He would take them to another location where he would torture them, rape them, and kill them. He would then take the bodies to yet another location, preferably crossing state lines, dispose of the remains so expertly that he left no DNA behind, and then very quickly put hundreds, if not thousands of miles again between him and that crime scene.
Good evening, everyone.
Earlier today, a forensic dive team discovered in Matanuska Lake what investigators believed to be the body of Samantha Koenig.
It's incredible that they caught him. He made a mistake that he said he had never made before. He began using his victim's ATM card. And one night, weeks after Samantha Koenig has gone missing, it begins pinging, because the FBI has a tracker on it. But it's not pinging in Anchorage now, it's pinging in the lower 48. They send out a BOLO, a be on the lookout, to law enforcement in Texas. And they pull this guy over on the side of a road. The ranger says, "Can I see your driver's license? And where are you from?" And the man says, "Alaska." Keyes is arrested in March 2012. Among the items recovered from his car in that roadside search is Samantha's ATM card with her access number, her access code scratched in the front of it, and her cell phone, which has been taken apart.
If you're thinking about, like, you give a clue and go on lunch or something like that, I mean, that's something that can be worked out.
He wanted the death penalty fast. FBI agents are telling Israel Keyes that if he wants the death penalty, they need more victims. And he says, after a pause, "Okay, I'll give you 2 bodies and a name."
Bill and Lorraine Currier of Essex, Vermont, were forcibly abducted from their home in June of 2011 and murdered.
Bill and Lorraine Currier were a middle-aged couple, ordinary in every way. That case went cold pretty fast.
How are you doing today, Joe? All right.
Until 10 months later, they show him the picture, and they say to him, "Are these the people you took?" And he says, "Yep." They say, "Well, had you known them? And he says, nope. And he said, I knew how to break in.
Tonight, the FBI now believes confessed serial killer Israel Keys took 11 lives. That's up from their previous count of 8. The FBI is also releasing a new detailed multi-year timeline regarding the whereabouts and dealings of Keys.
The Bureau's official tally is 11. There are other agents on this case who believe the number's far more. I'm in that camp. His sole reason for existing was to hunt and to kill people. That was it. Investigators on this case get a call in December 2012. Israel Keys has killed himself.
The 34-year-old committed suicide while in prison in Alaska, but before he died, he confessed to killing Bill and Lorraine Currier of Essex, Vermont.
Officially, the FBI considers this case closed. At a certain point late in the investigation, the FBI reclassifies this case and it goes from serial murder to terrorism. They've never made that public. There's no argument that it's within the public interest to know exactly what Keys was doing, what the FBI knows about what Keys was doing, what the Department of Justice or the U.S. military knows about how Keys was trained, what he was doing, why his case was designated as terrorism. This isn't just a horror story or a cold case here and there. I think it's a lot bigger than that. I'm very interested to see what fallout there may be from this book, and I really hope that there are cases that are reopened. I will be following it probably forever.
It's a cold case that continues to stump investigators. Who killed 8 women in the Louisiana bayou?
Jennings puts a curse on you. Either you're gonna make it or you're gonna fall into that grave. The girls, they didn't deserve what the hell they got.
There were 8 dead women, no justice for any of those women.
It's like they never existed.
I'm Ethan Brown, the author of Murder in the Bayou. I'm an investigative reporter, editor, and author of 4 books.
Brown's book about 8 killings in a tiny Louisiana town in Jefferson Davis Parish has been made into a documentary for Showtime. The murders have never been solved.
If you're a drug trafficker anywhere in this area, you are picking up cocaine and other drugs from Houston, which is obviously an enormous port city, and then you are then moving them on I-10 east, and you would actually go through Jennings to move those drugs. So the I-10 section where Jennings is located has almost kind of cartel level of drugs running through it. That creates drug problems, it creates corruption, and it's sort of like Jennings is a port city, but the port is not water, it's I-10.
Here's another body. Here's another one. Oh my God, there's another body. What's really going on in this town?
I first started hearing about this in 2010. I had a case that was taking me back and forth between New Orleans and Calcasieu Parish on that I-10 stretch. When I drove on that stretch, this was about a year after the last homicide in 2009, there were large billboards on I-10 featuring the faces of the 8 women. What is this? This is fascinating and strange. These women's faces are on billboards, along with billboards for casinos and hunting shops and gas stations. And suddenly here are 8 dead women in the middle of all of this. The Jeff Davis 8 refers to 8 women. All 8 of the women were from the south side of the tracks. There's that cliche, you're from the other side of the tracks. This is literally the cliche come to life. They were working poor. They struggled with all kinds of things, from mental illness to substance abuse disorder, and really like the day-to-day grind of working poor. You know, how do I get enough money to eat? Where do I live? Like all of these like really deep struggles.
They were also sex workers who ran in the same circles and got high with the same people, including pimps, criminals, and law enforcement officers, according to interviews Brown conducted for his book.
These women are struggling. They, however, have large families. They have partners, husbands, kids, sometimes multiple kids, and they are loved in their small community. They're loved by their families. Victim number 7, Brittany Gary, she was 17 years old when she was killed. Her death occurs in November of 2008. Her mother is just this force of nature kind of personality.
My child is alive out there somewhere. I know this.
Her mother was involved in putting together a search party for her. Her mother was deeply involved in doing a ton of media at the time in 2008.
I made a promise that I would find her and I would not stop until I did, and I'm not going to stop.
Her mother and her mother's pushing results in the creation of a multi-agency task force, which is created in the late fall of 2008, very soon after Brittany's murder. Multi-agency task force is comprised of the FBI, Jennings police, and numerous sheriff's offices in the area, including the Jeff Davis Parish Sheriff's Office. When the task force is created in late 2008, they're involved in this. Maybe this is being taken seriously now.
But that optimism quickly gave way to despair.
And then, incredibly, the last victim, victim number 8, occurs within 6 months or so of the task force's inception.
They can kill in this town and get away with it, because this is the devil's playground, and they're running right along with him.
My theory about this case is that it's definitely not a serial killer. It is a conspiracy of a small group of people who want to basically take these women out and erase this milieu of women from the earth. And mission accomplished on that, I believe.
Stick around for more Inside Edition True Crime. No one was about to challenge this picnic crasher. A family was enjoying a meal at a national park in Mexico when a black bear joined the feast. The humans sat very still and quietly while the bear went at their enchiladas. They were incredibly relieved when the bear had its fill and decided to leave. Welcome back. From 1998 to 2006, someone in Mexico City was killing elderly women. This is the story of the old lady killer.
It was a case that almost defied belief.
Se hacía llamar la Dama del Silencio.
Someone was killing elderly women in Mexico, strangling them with a stethoscope.
Sus víctimas fueron ancianas que vivían solas. Se hacía pasar por enfermera.
This is the very first time in Mexican history that police named and profiled a serial killer. Nickname El Mataviejitas. This means the little old lady killer.
La asesina serial cometió por lo menos 11 asesinatos.
My name is Susana Vargas Cervantes, and I wrote The Little Old Lady Killer, the sensationalized crimes of Mexico's first female serial killer. Grandmothers are thought as grandmothers of the nation. There is a character in the golden era of Mexican films. Her name is Sara Garcia. She's an old lady, like I'm sure you've seen her because she is the face of the chocolate Nestlé. And like chocolate, grandmothers are warm and sweet, and they provide a lot of comfort. This grandmother of the nation is what was being killed. And this is what brought the nation into crisis. It is because they were elderly women that police deploy a whole task force to find this specific serial killer.
Police came up with a profile of the little old lady killer.
They were looking initially for a man, even though witnesses kept on saying that she was a woman that was wearing a wig, that had makeup, but they couldn't conceptualize of a female serial killer. Police then thought it must be a transvestite. So they went in October of 2005 and arrested many transvestite sex workers. And after none of them matched their fingerprints, they concluded, okay, it's not a transvestite, but we're sure it's a transgender person.
The profile called to mind the fictional killers in Psycho and Silence of the Lambs. But the police were mistaken. A break in the case happened by accident in early 2006.
A renter was coming home when he saw another woman that she was exiting the house, and after he saw his landlady lying on the floor, strangled dead, he started chasing this other woman that he had just seen exiting the house, crying out for help from police, and two police officers that were patrolling the area chased these women, and when they caught her, they said, "This is the serial killer we had been struggling to find."
The person the police caught defied their profile of a serial killer. Her name was Juana Barraza.
Juana Barraza is a professional lucha libre wrestler that has been profiled as the very first female serial killer of elderly women in Mexico City.
Before she was arrested, Juana Barraza had an unusual claim to fame. She was a professional wrestler in the lucha libre tradition. Her name, La Dama del Silencio, or the Lady of Silence.
Lucha libre is a mix between a sport and a spectacle that has been very popular in Mexico since the 1930s. She had a persona that had a Power Ranger-like suit with silver knee boots and a butterfly mask, also silver and pink. Just 1 week before she was arrested and named the Old Lady Killer, she appeared on national TV giving an interview saying that she was a fan of lucha libre and that she was rude from the bottom of her heart.
Ruda o técnica. Ruda de corazón.
Ruda wrestlers are characterized by their rawness, their lack of technique, and the supposedly dirty tricks they play in the ring. Police and media retroactively built a profile around Juana Barraza. They said her somewhat masculine appearance and her wrestling background helped prove that she was a serial killer, capable of killing elderly women. And she became a celebrity of sorts.
As soon as Juana Barraza was determined to be the little old lady killer, there was songs made to her case. A novel written, like innumerable news media reports.
La mata viejita, las autoridades.
She became a species that had to be studied. It gave media and popular culture a perfect, sensational story.
Justice was swift for Juana Barraza.
She has confessed to one murder, that is the one that she was caught red-handed for, and she's been sentenced to other 16. There are still more than 30 homicides against elderly women that we don't know who killed them.
Juana Barraza was sentenced to 759 years in prison.
I think that the long sentence, that is the largest one for any murder in Mexico City, speaks to Juana Barraza being criminalized for how she looks, for looking masculine, for being very muscular and robust, for being a wrestler, but she has not been made responsible for the killings. And there is a big difference between what you are and what you do. I argue that Juana Barraza is being punished and stigmatized and criminalized for what she is.
The September 11th attacks will forever be etched in the memory of those who lived through them. But on Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, a homicide took place in New York City that remains cold to this day. Many have asked, will it ever be solved? Here's the story.
He ran up the stairs and was banging on the door. He had already been shot. Nobody answered the door. We believe that somebody saw something. It's just a matter of finding that right person.
A man named Henryk Siwiak was murdered in Brooklyn on September 11, 2001. Because those who died at the World Trade Center were classified as victims of terror, Siwiak was the only murder in New York City that day. The case remains unsolved.
My name is Detective George Harvey. I work at the 79th Precinct Detective Squad. The 79th Precinct is located in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. I've been with the 79th Precinct for all 25 years of my career. The precinct itself has changed dramatically. A Polish immigrant by the name of Henryk Siwiak was killed on September 11, 2001. In 2001, this area was very violent. He was on his way to a job down on Albany Avenue in Brooklyn, and he came up Albany Avenue to Decatur Street here.
Earlier that day, Siwiak had called his family in Poland to let them know he was safe after the World Trade Center attacks. Then he left for a new job in a part of town he didn't know well.
It was approximately around 11:45 p.m. Unknown individuals wound up shooting at him that night, hitting him numerous times. When he got to the spot on Decatur Street, he ran up the stairs to the brownstone. He was knocking on the door for help. He had already been shot, we believe, at that time. Nobody answered the door. He then stumbled down the stairs and fell on the sidewalk, where he ultimately died.
It's 8:52 here in New York. We understand that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. We don't know anything more than that.
Earlier that day was the terrorist attacks of the Twin Towers. So that's what was taking place amongst the city, and then this is the only other homicide that day in the city. Back in 2001, there was no iPhones, there was no video cameras, or there was a few, but not like it is today in the neighborhood. Like every building around here pretty much has a camera on it, and it makes it easier to solve some of the crimes. But back then, 2001, we just relied on the public to come forward and give us information. Albany Avenue is a pretty tight-knit block. It's a short block. It only goes from Fulton Street to Decatur Street. So they don't really like the outsiders coming through the block or coming on the block. They didn't even understand what was being said, if anything was being said, or he couldn't communicate himself to the people on the block. Everybody heard the shots, but nobody saw anything. Has turned up. Around the anniversary, we also hang up the reward posters, hoping to generate, new information in regards, to the case. I mean, we believe somebody saw something. It's just a matter of finding that person. So I believe that probably the person responsible is probably still in the area. We'd like to ultimately give the family some kind of closure in regards to the case and, find out who did this.
Anyone with information regarding the death of Henryk Siwiak is asked to call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS. All calls will be kept confidential.
Thank you for watching. There's more Inside Edition coming up.
Nancy410 on YouTube wants to know, what do I consider a great day? A great day is when I come here, we do the show one time, because oftentimes we will redo Inside Edition for a second feed. We had a great day, about a month ago? And prior to that, our great day was Michael Jackson was still alive. Yeah, literally, Michael Jackson was still alive the last time the powers that be thought the first take on this show was a good one. So that's a good day. A good day is also just any day, honestly. Every day is a good day. If you wake up, that's a good day. If you've got something to feel grateful for, that's an awesome day. So I think for me, every day is a great day.
Welcome back. During a barroom heist, one customer was caught on camera sipping his beer as if nothing was going on. The internet declared him the world's chillest man. Now he tells Inside Edition his story.
The world's chillest man, would you believe, is chill all the time. In 2019, a customer named Tony Tovar didn't flinch and even lit up a cigarette when his neighborhood bar was robbed, and then coolly asked the suspected robber for a beer when he was behind the counter.
He demanded that everybody hit the floor, and I just kind of ignored him. It frustrated him very much. But he said he needed the money out of my wallet. And I said, I only got $2 left, and that's for my next beer.
We checked in with Tony more than a year later.
Around here, I'm a local celebrity. A lot of people recognize my face and try to come up and talk to me.
Tony's been a master mechanic for 38 years and currently works at Century Tire and Auto in St. Louis, Missouri. His boss agrees with the headlines seen on Inside Edition's YouTube channel more than 50 million times.
Tony is the world's chillest man.
But also points out Tony's other great qualities.
I brought him in. He's a conscious worker. He cares about what he does. He does a very good job for us. Not sure if somebody put a gun in my ribs, I wouldn't give him whatever I had to give him. But he stood tall and didn't seem to bother him.
What happened at the bar doesn't seem to faze Tony.
I don't take anything really too seriously. I've had so much going on in my life.
He still ventures to Berman's Tavern for an after-work beer, where he likes to chill uninterrupted.
Inside this bar behind me is a regular watering hole. I lived right there.
And they got
There are local neighbors that depend on coming here and feeling that they're safe, to have their refreshments, and to not be bothered.
Tony wants people to know that even though he seems untroubled by danger, he fought to have this seat at the bar.
I'm a very honest person, forthright, hardworking, and nobody is going to take what I have worked hard for, under any circumstances.
As for the suspect in the armed robbery case, Kevin Moore pleaded not guilty to charges against him. He remains behind bars as he's being held with no bond.
He actually wrote a letter while he was incarcerated and apologized to the bar. And we put that letter on the wall. And people ask me, well, what do you think about him? I said, you know what? If I met him again today, I'd ask him to pray with me.
This crook was one of the most brazen jewel thieves in America.
She may be the most brazen and dangerous female robber you've ever seen. Look at her calmly walking into a jewelry store on Monday, then proceeding to clean out cases of diamonds and watches. Struck. Authorities say it's her 6th heist since April. She's hit other jewelry stores in Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee. Right now, there is an all-points bulletin for her capture. The FBI says she's in her late 20s or early 30s, about 5'8", and weighs about 130 pounds. John Kennedy is with the Jewelers Security Alliance.
In all my decades in this business, she's the only female I have seen who has gone in and conducted these armed robberies by herself.
In this broad daylight robbery, you see her on surveillance tape after leaving employees tied up in the back with zip ties.
She's robbing cases just like this. How easy is it?
Well, she's gotten the keys from the back room where she's tied the people up. She unlocks it and then she opens it up. She's got a big bag. She puts her hand in several times, a number of times, and keeps loading them, the whole trays, into her bag.
Right. She's dressed in a skimpy white tank top and gym shorts. In several of the robberies, she wears workout gear, which has people labeling her the jogger jewel thief. The FBI released this tape where they say the suspect is casing one of the stores, even talking to a clerk. Initially, authorities thought she was working alone, but then the same guy was caught on surveillance tape at 2 different jewelry stores. Coincidence? Not likely. Authorities say he's in his late 30s to early 40s, about 6 foot tall, and weighs 250 pounds. Here's more evidence she's working with somebody. A still shot in which the jewel thief seems to be communicating with someone through an earpiece. The FBI wants to nab her before she strikes again.
Did a suspect in a famous art heist take his secrets to the grave? Inside Edition's Mara Montalbano has more on the 1990 theft inside Boston's Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum.
Did a suspect in a famous art heist take his secrets to the grave? Robert Gentile died on September 17th at the age of 85, according to his attorney. Authorities have long suspected him of possessing or knowing the whereabouts of some precious stolen artwork.
Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum was a art thief's delight. Millions of dollars worth of artwork.
The Netflix docuseries This Is a Robbery, the World's Biggest Art Heist, chronicles the 1990 theft of $500 million worth of art from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. It was a brazen, middle-of-the-night burglary carried out by at least 2 people dressed as police officers, according to investigators. Their uniforms helped them gain entry to the museum, where they were able to tie up the security guards and go through the museum, cutting priceless works of art out of their frames and getting out completely undetected until the sun came up. 13 pieces were stolen, including works by Rembrandt, Degas, and Vermeer. They haven't been seen since.
They ain't gonna find nothing. N-U-T-T-I-N.
Gentile's attorney says that his client has always denied having anything to do with the heist or knowing where the art is, despite the FBI's claims that they received information to the contrary. Authorities searched a property that used to belong to Gentile as recently as 2016, but their search for any actual artwork came up empty. He was believed to be the last living person with any knowledge of the heist. No one has ever been charged in this case. There's still a $10 million reward for anyone with information that leads to the safe return of the art.
A fortune in dazzling gems.
This woman was planning on leaving with $7 million worth of diamonds without us even knowing it.
Jeweler Bobby Yampolsky says when the woman entered his exclusive store in Boca Raton, Florida, he led her directly to the giant vault where his most exquisite gems are stored.
This is actually the vault that I brought her into, and this is where we usually bring our larger clients looking at more important things.
They struck a deal for 11 rings, valued at $7 million. It was then that she made her move, asking to wrap up the jewels herself.
She brought her own materials. She actually put her own roll of tape out and a bunch of tissues and a little pouch. She was so nervous, I think, her hands were actually shaking.
Watch as she slips the package into her black briefcase. Now watch as she does the big switcheroo, handing him a package that was filled with fake gems and diamonds. The jeweler says the scam was so obvious, it was almost laughable. He grabs her briefcase, then there's a physical struggle.
She wasn't letting it go. She was holding on to that briefcase with dear life.
He knows just what to do. He shuts the glass door, then slams shut the giant steel door, locking her inside the vault.
We have a lady here who tried to scam us. We locked her in the safe.
Watch as the woman desperately tries to shove the phony package up her skirt. When that fails, she rips it into pieces. Within 10 minutes, police were on the scene.
She was actually very calm. She actually handed him a $50 bill and asked him to go pay the taxi that was waiting for her outside. I mean, it was almost comical.
46-year-old Fatima Milanovic was arrested. Instead of walking away with millions, she ended up locked in the vault herself.
More Inside Edition is coming up.
Powerful stories that change the way you think. Impactful investigations that change the way you see.
How many times has your car been stolen?
5 times.
Yeah.
What? Do you think that you're a responsible owner of tigers?
I damn sure do. Heartwarming moments that change the way you feel. Amazing. Now available in a place that changes the way you watch TV. Inside Edition, streaming.
And welcome to Inside Edition True Crime. The 1997 murder of fashion designer Gianni Versace in front of his Miami mansion stunned the world. His killer was on the run for more than 2 weeks before police closed in on him. We opened the Inside Edition vault for a flashback to show how the case was covered.
How does he operate? Kills people.
The description of Andrew Philip Cunanan is simple and frightening. But who is this man, now the focus of a nationwide manhunt, wanted not only for the murder of Gianni Versace, but also for his involvement in a 3-month-long murder spree?
Cunanan is known to be a male prostitute who services affluent clientele. Cunanan should be considered extremely dangerous and armed at this time.
Cunanan, who also goes by Andrew De Silva, has made the FBI's most wanted list, and now reports say that Cunanan and Versace may have been acquainted.
Those that knew him are frightened because he seems now to have totally flipped out.
Andrew is really Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde because
Andrew Cunanan, who asked us to conceal his identity, described him as articulate and flamboyant. Authorities say Cunanan's crime spree began. 4 days later, police discovered the body of Cunanan's former lover, David Madsen, not far away. Cunanan has been charged with this murder.
He is a serial killer by the very virtue of his numbers of victims, over 4 at this point, now 5. At the same time, the complexities that go into Cunanan's personality are such that he is really what we call a spree killer.
Police say that spree next led to Chicago and the torture murder of real estate mogul Lee Miglin. Then, on May 9th, Miglin's car was found at the site of a New Jersey cemetery where caretaker William Reese was found shot to death. Tuesday morning, police tied Cunanan in with Versace's murder when they found the red pickup truck that belonged to the dead caretaker. Stolen South Carolina license plates were on the truck. It was owned by Franklin Watts' daughter.
Kind of feel like that the tags were stolen on a shopping day or a school day or somewhere from home.
And inside the truck, police found clothes and even headline articles about Cunanan himself.
He's just rampaging across the country.
Robert Bressler, a former FBI agent and an expert on the behavior of serial killers, theorizes on why Cunanan could have killed Versace.
Either he had a connection with Versace, and he could have had a connection based on the flamboyant personality that he portrayed, or Versace could merely be a symbolic victim, symbolic of the success, the fame, the wealth.
The possible connection between fashion giant Gianni Versace and Andrew Cunanan came out Wednesday when Maureen Orth, a writer for Vanity Fair magazine, reported that the two had met backstage at the San Francisco Opera some years ago. Orth said that she did not believe that the two were intimate. At Twist, a gay nightclub in South Beach, the manager remembers seeing Cunanan.
But he was a normal-looking guy, so normal. That's the scariest part of it all.
And that may be why the FBI hasn't been able to catch the suspected killer. Nicole Ramirez Murray, a columnist for the Gay and Lesbian Times in San Diego, knew Cunanan and followed his jet-set lifestyle.
He was a gigolo. He was definitely an American gay gigolo. And he had gentlemen that took care of him. He wanted attention. I would say that he could light up a room with a smile.
Now Ramirez Murray is in fear, like so many others.
I've been very concerned, as other people have been concerned, of his return to San Diego, so I had an iron gate put on my door. The Versace thing is putting him in a new direction, and I think that direction is headlines. The direction is, I'm going to go down with the biggest headlines I can.
Just where Cunanan is now headed is anyone's guess. So far, he's outwitted authorities.
Andrew wanted people to pay attention to him, and now I think the whole country is paying attention to Andrew.
With his death, Andrew Cunanan gives birth to an unsolvable mystery. Did he kill 5 men? And more importantly, why? Cunanan did not leave behind a suicide note, so police are left with only pieces of the puzzle. But what is becoming more clear is how the suspected serial killer spent the final days of his life. Meanwhile, police are now certain that Cunanan's suicide gun was the same .40 caliber handgun used to kill Gianni Versace and 2 other men. Police found other evidence at the scene of Cunanan's suicide. A small safe was carried from the area. Neighbors around the houseboat continue to report contact with the suspected killer in the days after Versace's murder. Cunanan apparently walked openly around the area. Witnesses reported seeing him suntanning and shopping.
I saw a guy sitting in this bench, reading a book. I went to my boat, like this, and say hi, and he didn't say anything.
Photographer Guillermo Volpe says someone broke into his sailboat right near the houseboat where Cunanan was caught. Volpe shot this home video inside his sailboat just after the intruder, now believed to be Cunanan, left.
I discovered that, all the scene that was in the floor is over there. And this bed, he used this bed to sleep. And I found 2 Wednesday newspaper, one from Cunanan. We went to the police station and tell the history, but they didn't do anything.
He has been harboring him. We'll proceed against him federally, I'll tell you that.
And new reports claim that within 48 hours of Versace's murder, Cunanan contacted an associate trying to get a fake passport. Another report says Cunanan was deeply in debt, owing more than $40,000 to credit card companies and creditors. Cunanan's body remains in custody, but it will soon be turned over to his family. He will be buried near his mother's home in California, taking to the grave many secrets that will never be answered.
An American couple got quite a fright when an angry hippo charged them while they were on safari in Africa. The hippo was at a watering hole when it went on the attack, and those teeth were sunken.
Foamy canine joy. High winds from Storm Babette created thick sea foam on some British shorelines. These 2 dogs found joy while frolicking through the foam.
Welcome back. The Versace mansion is now a boutique hotel and event space, but also attracts millions of visitors each year to see where the Italian designer lived and died. These other pieces of real estate have a history in true crime as well. Take a look.
These houses have a dark history. They were the sites of gruesome killings, or they housed a killer.
Hi.
This adorable couple loved to give tours of their Sacramento duplex.
Come on in.
And people are curious to take a look around because in the 1980s it was home to serial killer Dorothea Puente, who used her home as a boarding house and killed her guests so she could keep their Social Security money. It's now owned by Barbara and Tom Williams.
This was where her first body was buried underneath this fountain here. It was distinctive because it had no head, hands, or feet.
Investigators found at least 7 bodies buried on the property. The Williamses aren't shy about the home's past. They enjoy playing into it.
We do like to have some fun here. This is the shower curtain that we chose for our bathroom.
While they didn't set out to buy a house with this kind of history, they say they couldn't pass up the 5-bedroom home that was asking just $215,000.
The price was killer.
So here is where the actual body was found.
But this couple was not too happy to learn that their house in Monterey, California, used to be occupied by a serial killer who hid at least 2 bodies on the property.
You could never be prepared for somebody to look at you and say, a serial killer's been living in your house.
Scott and Laura Cote say they didn't know about the house's past until they actually found a skull in their garden.
It's stunning and sickening and surreal all at the same time.
In many states, realtors aren't required to disclose if a murder took place on the property, so buyer beware.
This place is a complete mess in here. You got broken glass.
The media was led into the home of the married couple suspected of the 2015 San Bernardino mass shooting. Authorities say they killed 14 people at a holiday party before they were both shot dead by police. Inside Edition's Jim Murray was there as the landlord opened the killer's apartment.
The couple, as you know, had a 6-month-old baby daughter. You can see some evidence of that still left behind.
Jim also found bank statements, family photos, and religious items, but no signs that this couple was about to commit a terrorist attack.
Interesting to note that there are 2 calendars here on this refrigerator, this magnet and this larger one here. Nothing whatsoever to indicate any planning for the December 2nd attack.
That could be because the FBI had already raided the place. Broken glass shows where they kicked the door in, but all other signs showed a normal family going about their lives. A house in New York was the site of a 2005 mob hit. Joseph Young was the caretaker at the historic Kreischer Mansion on Staten Island. Federal investigators say he was ordered to kill an associate of the Bonanno crime family named Robert McKelvey. Authorities say Young, also known as Joe Black, stabbed McKelvey at the mansion, then drowned him in a pond on the property. He then cut up the body and burned it in the house's furnace. Young is serving life in prison without parole for the crime. The Kreischer mansion has also been the site of mysterious sounds and sightings, and some say it could be haunted. While no one has lived there for years, the current caretaker has put it to use around Halloween for a haunted house experience. This Colorado home was the site of one of the biggest unsolved murders in history. It's where 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey was found dead in December of 1996. The Ramseys have long since moved out, but its new occupants admit the crime did give them pause.
God, are we really doing this? I mean, really? This is just, why are we doing this? And we walked through the front door, and the minute we did, my breath was just taken away.
Carol Schuler-Milner says once she saw the home's potential, she made it her mission to give it a new life.
You know, it's like this thing that just was sitting there, and that was just a constant reminder of something horrible that happened. And I'm just a believer in undoing stuff like that.
Since she moved in, she says she has completely renovated the home, including the basement where little JonBenet's body was found.
It's full of joy again. It's full of life again. We would love to be here the rest of our lives.
Powerful stories that change the way you think. Impactful investigations that change the way you see.
How many times has your car been stolen?
5 times.
Yeah. What? Do you think that you're a responsible owner of tigers?
I damn sure do.
Heartwarming moments that change the way you feel. Amazing. Now available in a place that changes the way you watch TV. Inside Edition, streaming.